Fabulous. This feels very much like the gun left on the mantle in stage one, like something bad's going to happen and it's going to be really exciting. So hello, I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, even with a very, very intimidating welcome to the stage, I'm going to be talking to you all about imposter syndrome. But really, I'm going to be talking to you all about how your brain is terrible and there's pretty much nothing you can do about it. So this is going to be a really friendly, really happy talk about how we're all doomed. To introduce myself very quickly, my name is Jessica Rose. And this is obnoxious, but I think I'm one of the luckiest people ever. I get to work at FutureLearn, and I'm managing some really brilliant engineers. But I also get to come to conferences like this and talk to people who are working on things that I literally cannot comprehend. I was talking to someone who does Haskell things. There were a lot of very specific words. I appreciated all of those words. But like, I don't get a lot of it. So this talk really came from getting to meet brilliant people and being terrified that I didn't belong there. But I want to go back in time a little bit. Before I worked in technology, I used to be a teacher, and I am so excited about human brains. Your brain, not yours, but everybody's brain, is actually pretty small. And it's just a wet bag of meat. Your brain is a wet bag of meat soaked in chemicals, but it's everything you've ever loved, everything you're afraid of. What are you worried about? That's just your brain giving you things. Your brain is a magical little bag of meat inside a bone prison. And your brain wants things from you. Your brain loves to learn, but it needs to be in a very special place. There's a language learning concept called the zone of proximal development. And the zone of proximal development says that when you get tasks, when you get something to do, if it's too easy, you can do the thing, but you're not really learning anything new. But if you're doing something that's really, really difficult, you probably can't do the thing. If it's too high above your level, it's really going to damage your motivation. You're not going to get work done, and you're not really learning anything new. To really learn, your brain has a magical sweet spot. The zone of proximal development is one level up from what you're currently able to do. It's your comfort zone, and then one more step. That's fine. So now, we know that your brain has some place that it wants to be in the zone of proximal development to learn. This would be fantastic. We could leave right now and go to the party. But your brain is terrible at self-assessment. Your brain has no idea what level you're at, so it doesn't know how to get one more level up. And this is because of cognitive biases. I'm very lazy, so please enjoy the lazy Wikipedia definition of a cognitive bias. A cognitive bias is a systemic It's not useful. This is my favorite definition of cognitive bias. A cognitive bias is when your brain goes out and collects terrible data. You get bad information in, and then it uses that bad information to make conclusions. Say, oh wow, I've got bad data, I've made bad conclusions, and because I made it just for you, you love those conclusions. You're never going to let them go. Cognitive bias is garbage in, garbage out, but with your brain as the processor. I'm going to talk to you first about my second favorite cognitive bias, which is a pretty nerdy thing to say. Has anybody heard about imposter syndrome before? Cool. I love that you're ready to raise your hand. That's going to come back in a second. For those of you who don't know, I like to describe imposter syndrome by how it feels. It's the feeling that you have no idea what you're doing, everyone else seems fine, They're going to find out you don't know what you're doing. You're going to get fired. You'll lose your apartment. You live in England. You'll have to live outside. It rains a lot. Brexit's still going to happen. Everything will be terrible forever. But like the second half of that, your mileage may vary. Yeah, it's just the feeling like you don't belong and you're going to get caught. And this sucks pretty hard. But sucks pretty hard isn't very scientific. Let's take a more research approach. So Ives and Clance, back in the 70s, they did the first research study on imposter syndrome, and they studied high-achieving women. And they found that these high-achieving women who were impacted by imposter syndrome, that they reported feelings of inadequacy. But like, that kind of tracks, right? I have no idea what I'm doing. I feel inadequate, imposter syndrome. Yeah, cool. They would avoid displaying the skills that they felt bad about. If you think you're not a great JavaScript developer, you're probably going to go ahead and sit in the corner when front-end work comes up. But they also found that folks who they studied used soft skills. They used charm, mitigation. They were nicer to try and get around where they felt their gaps were. Especially weirdly, they just worked harder. That folks who were suffering imposter syndrome spent more time, put in more hours, and worked harder at the stuff they felt they were lacking in. So we've got the what. This is what imposter syndrome's doing. The next thing I want to take a look at is who's impacted by imposter syndrome. So everyone was very compliant a moment ago. If you've ever felt like you have no idea what's going on and you don't know what you're doing and you're going to get caught and everything's terrible, could I have a hand? Quickly look at who doesn't have their hands up. There's a gag at the end. So that's a very quick and dirty. Please raise your hand doesn't feel very scientific. So let's go back to the science for a second. Imes and Clance, they studied high-achieving women, and then they said, oh, high-achieving women are the most impacted. But we studied high-achieving women, and our conclusion is high-achieving women are impacted. Maybe not as helpful. Vera Vasquez and Corona came around in 2006, and they said, we got this. High-achieving women of color are most likely impacted. And then there's a bunch of other studies. I cut out like 20 slides. You can come get the list if you want. The TLDR, from a lot of research, that says, okay, high-achieving visible minorities are most likely to be impacted. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but we did a very scientific anecdotal sampling here, and we saw pretty much everybody put their hands up. If you're watching the video at home, everybody on the audience is beautiful, everybody's well rested, they're all relaxed, and they all raise their hands. What's with the mismatch there? We said high-achieving visible minorities, but here we've got a good mix of everybody. I think there's probably a couple different reasons. When you talk about feeling like you don't belong or feeling like you're a fraud, lots of times in Western cultures, we're really discouraging guys from feeling anything. In a culture where men are very strongly discouraged from talking about their feelings, you're probably going to see more women say, I feel anything, especially I feel like I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. I think representation matters a lot here too. Let's say I'm Bob. Bob's a cool dude. And I get to work one day and it really occurs to me that I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm a little bit freaked out. And when I look around the office, Mark works in the office with me too. I'm pretty freaked out, but Mark's fine. And, we went to the same uni. We have the same hobbies. We kind of look alike. When I look around and I see Mark, and he's fine, I can sort of see myself in his success. That's really relaxing. But let's say I'm not Bob, I'm someone else entirely. I'm different from everyone else on my team. And sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing. When I get a chance to look around and I say, okay, well, Mark's here. Mark's a great dude. This hypothetical Mark, great guy. But we didn't go to the same university, and we don't really have a lot in common. We don't sound alike or look alike. I don't see myself in Mark's success. The lack of representation means I don't get an external cue that maybe things are mostly okay. I think you see a mismatch in as well, just because the messages we give people. Your brain out there in the world, hopefully with you, is getting messages all the time. If you're in an environment where there's active or gentle discrimination, you're going to be getting either very, very strong or more subtle messages that you don't belong here, that maybe you don't know what you're doing. People internalizing these is absolutely natural. And I think there's something really exciting going on that's terrifying, that's really changing how we deal with imposter syndrome. Some of you are very young. A long time ago, before the web was really a thing, if you wanted to see what somebody's daily life was like, you could read a biography, maybe there'd be a newspaper profile, but we only saw the daily lives of people like politicians or people like movie stars. These days, you've got this beautiful, almost real-time feed of what everyone else is doing. You can look at your coworkers, you can see what your hearers are doing, you can see what your weird enemy from middle school is doing now. But the hard thing is, this is a show reel. If I come up here and you all laugh at my jokes, you should laugh at my jokes, and this talk goes really well, I'm going to brag about this. I'm going to put it on all of this social media. If I come up here and I bomb, if I trip over this, if I cry, this isn't maybe Tumblr. But when you look at other people's social media, you're seeing their best selves. And when you compare it to your life, you're not comparing it to a clip reel. You're comparing it to waking up tired and feeling weird and having maybe one more glass of wine after the party. It's really tempting to compare your real lived experience to someone else's show reel. So far, this talk is all about how everything's terrible forever. Cognitive biases are a thing. You're never going to be able to get rid of them. Your brain's going to keep giving you bad conclusions with bad data, and you're never going to get rid of imposter syndrome. Yay! How about we look at some ways to manage it? You're never going to debug your brain, but there are maybe ways we can make it a little bit better. But you all are very nice people, right? You're nice people, right? Oh, wow. Usually when I do this, there's always somebody yelling, no. So of course, you want to know how to make it better for other people first, right? That was a lot less excited. I was like, are you good people? Yeah. Do you want to help other people? That's a lot of work. So the first thing I'm going to warn you is never tell someone else they have imposter syndrome. And I'm going to tell you a very short story. Everyone in the story is okay. No one died. No one got punched in the face. Really close. A couple years ago, I was at a hackathon with a bunch of university students, and they were young and beautiful and excited about the world because they don't know better. It's been 2018 for like 9 years. Like it's been a while. And this absolute puppy of a boy, this cherub, he must have been 18 or 19. He's very young, very excited. He came over and said, hey! But I was doing JavaScript, so I was swearing quietly by myself because that's my business. He came over to be like, hey, Jess! Because we were on a first name basis. We're on a first name basis, it's cool. And he's, Jess! Yeah. What are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm doing some JavaScript, but I'm not very good at it, so I'm just going to take a little bit. No! And like, God bless him, I've got shoes older than this child. I was like, no, it's not that you're bad at it. You have imposter syndrome. Like, he's fine. Never, ever, ever tell someone who's telling you about their life that it's an internal problem. If someone's coming to you with a problem, they could be saying, I have a problem with culture fit at work. I have a real skills gap. I'm not fitting in. But if you say, oh, that's imposter syndrome, what you're saying is, oh, wow, that sounds like a problem for you to deal with inside. Unless you're the most angelic 18-year-old boy and you expect to skate by on that, it's highly dangerous. Don't do it. What you can do, and what I would love for you to do, is give actionable positive feedback. Who here has complained about something on the internet when it didn't work? You are either liars or saints. Or both. Who here has sent a thank you message to an open source maintainer or, wow, is this like a Spain thing? How do I move to Spain? Someone see me after class. But giving people feedback is giving them more data points. Their brains are out there collecting garbage data. Give them good data to fuel things with. And this one's not low risk. With the interconnectivity, with social media, whether or not you want to be, you're probably someone else looks up to. If you feel secure, if you feel safe, sometimes just casually saying, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing sometimes, is incredibly helpful. Sometimes getting to sit next to somebody who's great at stuff, who says, wow, I'm really lost. It's just like oh, thank God it's not just me. But you're not just selfless. You care about yourself. Like, you want to make your life better, right? It's a very confusing cheer. Let's talk about ways you can sort of manage imposter syndrome yourself. You're never going to completely fix it, but we can do a little bit. Who here has taken a very useful, very relevant industry certification? Who's taken an industry certification? Cool, cool, cool. They're not always as useful as you want them to be, but any kind of test is hard numbers. You get a piece of paper back and you can be like, wow, I'm 73% not crap. That's a data point. You don't have to take a test. You could help someone else learn something. You could tutor, you could share knowledge. Because when they get it, you go, wow, I must have known the thing to teach you the thing. All right, everything's okay. You're never going to get rid of imposter syndrome. You're never going to pull that out of your brain. But what I want you to do is start to think about the process. Oh God, I have no idea what I'm doing. Everything's terrible. I'm going to get caught. I'm going to lose my job. Definitely lose my flat. And Brexit. What I want you to do is pull that over. Check in with yourself regularly as soon as you're like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit lost. I have no idea what I'm doing. Just stop. For those of you who also live in the UK, sorry about the Brexit stuff. This is a good chance for a tea break. You just need to walk away from your computer or whatever is making you weird. Walk away for 2.5 minutes. That's a cup of tea. I am not a good artist. I had a really good friend of mine design my slides. And unfortunately, I told her, I was honest with her. She asked, Jess, what do you do when you're really stressed? And then she just decided to illustrate that. I would like to take the opportunity while I'm on stage to say this is not gross and this is not weird. If anybody else eats cake in the bath or does any weird food eating, please see me after class. Like, come have a chat with me. I've got an argument with my husband that I would really like some backup with. So just to catch up, not weird, but more mainstream folks, anything that chills you out, anything that lets you unplug from the, oh God, I have no idea what I'm doing, everything's terrible, anything that cuts that off is absolutely the way to go. If you're really into board games, go chill out, do some board games. Read. I did give someone this advice and they came back and said, oh, I was having a really hard time with this thing I was working on, so I went off to read a technical book about the thing. Go read a novel, read Lord of the Rings, chill out. Don't deal with the same problem somewhere else. I'm told that some extremely healthy people who have their lives together exercise when they're stressed. If this is you, don't take any of my advice. Like, you've got your life together. Just put on some headphones. We got nothing for you. You're good. You are already living your best life. Like, come get the mic. Tell us. So far, this talk still kind of sucks. Impostor syndrome's a thing. You'll never escape it. You could go running, I guess, and take tests, maybe. But I want to take like a big, weird detour. We've talked in a lot of ways about how imposter syndrome is really miserable. I'm wondering if there's not a way to look at it that's a little bit less bad. Let's go way back in time. Imes and Clance, they said, well, folks with imposter syndrome have feelings of inadequacy. That sucks, right? Yeah. And avoiding displays of target skills, that's not ideal. But they're also charming and nicer to other people when they feel bad about stuff. That's pretty decent, right? And they're working harder. That's absolutely fine. I want to chat to you about my favorite cognitive bias. Did anybody ever use lemon juice as invisible ink? Cool. For those of you who don't, if you're living in the EU, you've got to use a radiator. The old light bulbs don't work. You take a white piece of paper and you write a message in lemon juice, and it's invisible until you hold it up to a radiator or until you hold it up to an old-fashioned light bulb. It's okay. A gentleman in the States in the 90s decided he was going to rob a bank. And before robbing the bank, he got some lemons and put lemon juice over his face. For the cameras at the bank. So when the police came to get him, he was very surprised that he was recognized because he thought he was invisible. Bless. So you or me, we might have read this in the newspaper and been like, but there were two researchers named Dunning-Kruger, and Dunning-Kruger knew something very important. They knew that grant money is a thing. I like to imagine they were having breakfast, with like grapefruits and grapefruit spoons and nice coffee. And they were looking at the newspaper and said, wow, Dunning. Yes, yes. Kruger. Look at this guy. Lemon juice. He thought he was invisible. Do you think stupid people know they're stupid? Dunning-Kruger didn't just have access to grant money, they had access to students. So they got 2,500 students and gave them an aptitude test, just a general knowledge test. If you've ever gotten given one of these in school, or if you ever tried to get a crappy job like at Walmart, they'll give you just like a general knowledge test. Dunning-Kruger came in, gave all these students a test, and then took it away. And they said, okay, before I give you your scores, how do you think you did against your peers? How smart do you think you are compared to your friends and classmates? And this is the scores. And this is fabulous because this word, quartile, does not get enough play. And this is about what you would expect. The people who did the worst did the worst. And the people who did the best, they did the best. But when it came time to say, hey, you haven't seen this yet, you don't know your score, show me how good you think you are, you would be shocked to know. And Dunning-Kruger were really, I don't know if they were good guys, but they were more polite than me. They didn't say stupid. They said the terminally unskilled, which is a fabulous diss. Oh, how's your sister? You're like, well, she's getting by. She's still terminally unskilled. Oh, your boss? Yeah, but terminal. Folks who performed the lowest rated themselves artificial. Look at that confidence bump. These people sleep the sleep of the just. And the closer you get to absolute mastery, the better you are, the more likely you are to doubt yourself and to rate yourself lower than you actually are. Dunning-Kruger came up with 3 absolutely enraging conclusions. Unskilled. They found that the unskilled could not recognize skill. They couldn't identify it in themselves, so they just happily assumed they were great. They sleep well at night. They're not troubled with imposter syndrome. Everything's fine. They know they're great. You ready to be mad? This is based on the unskilled being unable to recognize skill in themselves. The thing is, they just can't recognize skill. Not only do they think they're clever, they think you're an idiot. They're so completely unable to identify skill that they have no idea that you're not the stupid one. Which is fine. Luckily, there's hope. The unskilled are absolutely able to move past their own thickness, and they can recognize and grow if they identify their own lack of skill. But go to 1. This is not going to happen. This is like an infinite loop of dumb. I try not to do question and answer after this talk because folks are like, hey, so my boss, I'm like, you got to quit your job. Like, there's no out here. Everything's terrible, forever, but only for you. Folks who are really thick are fine. They're going to be fabulous with this. But I wonder if there's not a different way to look at it. So far, imposter syndrome's terrible. Dunning-Kruger frees some people from it permanently, and stuff's bad, but just for you and everyone else. I want to look at this a different way. When you're getting feelings of imposter syndrome, you're getting a message from your brain. Your brain is saying, hey, something's happening. I'm going to make you feel bad. And that's not very productive. That's like a really weird response message. But when your brain is telling you, maybe we don't know what we're doing, maybe everything's bad, what your brain is really shouting is, hey, we're not so stupid, we don't know we're stupid. We got a baseline and it's fine. I want you to look at your brain telling you this as like a really, really badly written error message. Every time your brain says, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to have to live outside, say, whoop. I don't know how you talk to your brain. I assume it's here, not, hey, it's probably fine. If your brain is giving you messages that you don't know what you're doing and you're out of your depth, it's giving you really crappy feedback that you're in that zone of proximal development. It feels bad because your brain is dumb, but it's okay. Everyone else's brain is dumb too. I used to finish this talk on that very cheery, like, hey, it's going to feel bad forever, but maybe you can see it as a good sign. Every time your brain makes you feel bad, say, oh, I'm on the right track. But afterwards, I would chat to people, and they would say, hey, Jess, because we're on a first name basis too. I was like, Jess, I know all about imposter syndrome. I was like, cool, me too. But I'm actually crap. They say, I know about imposter syndrome. I know it's a thing, but I'm actually dumb. What do I do? Which clearly, because if you were actually dumb, you would be sitting in the back going like, oh, talk's ridiculous. Yeah, folks who didn't like this talk. My very, very hurtful message for anybody who's a meta-imposter, say, hey, I know about imposter syndrome, but I still think I'm legitimately dumb. You're not that special. Your brain is not different. Just because you know about imposter syndrome doesn't make it hurt less or doesn't make it feel any weird. You're probably going to keep feeling bad about it, but I want you to feel like you're getting one over on your brain every time it's giving you these incredibly unsettling error messages. Just note and log them. Say, wow, that's weird. I don't like this, but I'm going to steal whatever value I can get out of this interaction. Thank you so much.